within the prison community, sex offenders, child molesters, rapists, etc., they're the lowest of the low.
Right.
And, they're obvious targets. But I actually read some quotes from the son of the inmate who beat up Jared Fogle, and basically it said, or the son said, that
right.
Jared had kind of an attitude. He felt that he was an elitist, that, with the money that he had, he was better than everyone, and that he could buy and sell privileges. And other inmates took a lot of offense to it. And, the inmate who did the assault, he's in the hole, so he's on, disciplinary restriction, and he's pretty proud of himself, and he'd do it again from the article that I read.
What will happen to him ultimately? Nothing, right?
He'll lose some phone privileges, lose some commissary, some administrative privileges, criminal charges for what's really a minor assault at the end of the day. The criminal charges are unlikely. There'll be some administrative discipline. And, frankly, he'll be a hero to the other inmates because he's the guy that knocked out Subway Jared. It doesn't sound like Jared's making a whole lot of friends. And the last that I heard is that he was actually reassigned to the officers' dining room, that the prison employees have their own food, their own cafeteria, dining room, if you would, and that he's serving sandwiches. So there's a little bit of an ironic twist to that, a little bit of sick humor. But interestingly, that's seen as a privilege, and that's a job that comes with some privilege and good time. So while it was done for the benefit of the, of Jared's safety, and that's how they'll justify it, he's pissing off some more people just by having that job. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have to bounce him around. That is, if the Federal Bureau of Prisons relocates or rehouses Jared over the course of his prison sentence to different institutions. And it wouldn't surprise me a bit if he ended up on a sex offender yard.
Yes, you're 100% right. And look, it's been a good 5 years with Jerry Sandusky. We haven't heard anything. And Jerry, at 70 years old, maybe probably could put up a better fight than Jared Fogle, because Alex Sanchez was here and said that this would happen.
Right. Sandusky's in a Pennsylvania state prison. I want to point that out. Jared is in a federal facility because he was prosecuted in federal and convicted in federal court. So it's a little bit different, but the Federal Bureau of Prisons does have sex offender housing units available. So, Jared will end up there at some point. How many beatdowns he gets between now and then is probably up to him and his attitude.
Yeah, and Alex was talking about that maybe he has to buy, things for one guy to keep him safe, and there's all kinds of codes in prison, and do you believe in that, and do you think that's true?
Oh, I absolutely do. Again, it depends on the yard that he's on. Some yards are more political than others. There's certainly an underworld within the prison system, and it just depends. I think prison officials are going to have to keep a close eye on him, one, because of his high-profile nature and status. He's a target. I mean, Bernie Madoff, who's in Butner, North Carolina, he got assaulted, too, at one point.
Yes.
It wasn't all that long ago. So high-profile inmates can be a target, and you don't know the backstory. Maybe the other inmate tried to shake Jared down for money or commissary, or who knows. And Jared told him to pound sand.
I think he even has a Facebook page, somebody created, and he sends pictures, or he's proud that he beats up the molesters.
Well,
and
like I
don't know. I'd like to know what he's in there for before, I give him my bow. That's just me. Maybe he
fair
killed
enough.
somebody.
I can accommodate you and look that up for you after the show. But like I said,
No question about it. Okay, Hulk Hogan awarded almost $140 million. Here's some of the testimony and some of the story, and then we'll talk about Hulk Hogan right after this.
It was kind of like a group hug.
You were discussing Hulk Hogan's penis.
Yeah, because Terry Bollea's penis is not 10 inches like you're trying to say.
All right.
It's not mine, because mine isn't that size. But we were discussing the length of Hulk Hogan's.
Seriously? So you
No, seriously, I do not have a 10-inch penis. No, I do not.
Okay,
seriously.
fair enough.
Sometimes when I wear a bandana as Terry Bollea, it's just because it's like a self-confidence thing where if I don't have the bandana on, it's kind of like hard not to look at, how bald-headed I am and how big my head is. My gut was telling me that this was off, this was wrong, and from the feeling I had, I said, Bubby, you're not filming this, are you? And he just flashed into me. What the hell's wrong with you? I'm your effing best friend. How dare you say that to me? When they confirmed that Bubba was on the tape, and Bubba went up and turned the camera off, and Bubba told Heather that this is for our retirement, Heather, I just started violently shaking. I couldn't stop.
There are celebrity sex tapes would not be disclosed if they were a child. Otherwise, or.
My problem is this whole the videotape that you guys put out. It lives forever. It'll be there forever on the internet. That's the problem.
Hulk Hogan awarded $140 million over Gawker, but they want a rematch, Jason, and maybe they will get one. First of all, give me your take on the whole Hulk Hogan situation.
Right now, Hulk Hogan is just so envied by every landlord in Manhattan, Jordan. I mean, think about it. No, I mean, literally, $140 million for a 10-inch penis. That's $14 million an inch. You thought real estate was bad in Manhattan. He's got
Holy cow.
pricey junk.
Oh, my.
This is, I think this is, another example of a trend in the courts, where juries are saying that privacy is so important. I mean, look at Aaron Andrews' $55 million gross verdict just a very short time ago. And I think that's the message the jury was trying to send. In this case, it was $115 in compensatory damages and $25 million in punitive. And Gawker, quite properly, has reached out and said, look, this is more than Hulk Hogan was even asking for.
Right.
So, of course, the verdict is subject to being adjusted and brought down by the judge. There are some issues. There were some documents and records that were sealed, and there's some issues about that. But, the fight is far from over. But it just kind of tells you the trend in those privacy cases. There's some really, really strong feelings, and I'm actually involved in a case right now, and I can't get into too many details, where someone was surreptitiously videotaped in a very compromising position without their knowledge. It didn't make it up on the internet, and that's a good thing, but it was taken by someone in a position of trust. And frankly, we're looking to ride the coattails of Aaron Andrews and Hulk Hogan, to try and get this individual some compensation. Would I ever see $140 million or $55 million? Absolutely not. Did Hulk Hogan's celebrity status likely, boost that up? Well, of course it did. If he was just Terry Bollea, it wouldn't be that fabulous.
Right. But what about the appeal for Gawker? Do you think they have a shot? Well, they have a shot, obviously. But what percentage would you say the shot of Gawker to actually getting another chance is? Well,
this is years of litigation, and there's so many issues. And It's really hard to Monday morning, quarterback something like this. I mean, I'd love to give you a number. I'd love to blow, smoke up everyone's ass and tell you that, but that's not the case. I mean, there's clearly issues that the lawyers briefed. They're very competent lawyers. That was obvious. But the legal issues could get a new trial. On the other hand, the appeals court may knock down the number. The trial judge may be dealing with a motion for a new trial before it gets to the appeals court. The trial judge may be in a position, in fact, I'm going to almost guarantee you that Gawker is going to ask him to knock down the number for various legal reasons. And, there's also the possibility that there's a settlement. Even after the verdict, it's interesting that parties to a case, not just Hulk Hogan and Gawker, but, after a verdict, you can still settle a case provided there's a waiver of the right to appeal. And there's an incentive there. And there may be something, for Gawker that if they don't feel their issues are real great at getting a new trial, maybe there's a lower number that everyone can agree upon and they go home. We don't know if there was insurance involved, how much Gawker is insured for, how much of their carrier is going to eat, how much is going to come out of their pocket. So there's a lot of moving parts and dynamics that we, the public, don't know. And unless you're really on the inside of the case, it's hard to know these sorts of things because they're just not public knowledge. We only see what happens, in the courtroom, and frankly, we only see the parts of what occurs in the courtroom based on what's reported.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And how long will it take for Hulk Hogan to see any money? Does he see $15 million right away? How does that work?
Well, basically, when a jury makes an award, whether it's Hulk Hogan or a personal injury case, there's a verdict, and essentially there's a judgment at that point. If there is an appeal, the money isn't paid, but there is interest tacked on to the money, the jury verdict, if you would. And that's going to be a state-by-state basis, how much it is. And, sometimes it's worth it for the defendant. Sometimes it's an insurance company. Let's say it's a $100,000 award and, interest is 4%, but they have, a lot of money pooled together with different insurance companies and they can make 6%. Well, hell, just appeal it at that point because they're making an extra 2%, and it's a financial decision. These are the kind of things that go on in risk management behind the scenes. These are the things we never talk about or know about. But to get back to your question, it's when all the appeals are over, that's when money would change hands. And hey, this has some First Amendment issues. This could go all the way up to the Supreme Court. It all just depends how the attorneys made the arguments before the trial court. And, it could be a long time. It could be a really long time for Hulk Hogan to see even a penny of that money.
Very interesting indeed. I do want to mention to you about the People versus O.J. Simpson. Now, yesterday they showed what it was like for the jurors who were originally told that they would be there for 2 months, then it became 9 months, and there was so much fighting. They were sequestered. It was a nightmare for a lot of the jurors. Some of them, at least according to this report and the show of the reenactment, did almost anything to get off the case. Some people had motives, some people had agendas. How tough is it for a juror when they're sequestered for 9 months?
Well, I've never been sequestered, and I've only been a juror one time, and we weren't sequestered. That was long time ago. But, the dynamics in a jury room are very interesting. Anytime you bring 12 people together, 12 people who don't know each other, 12 people from different backgrounds, and they're sort of forced to assimilate and work together and think together, it's tough to come to some common thought. Sometimes people bond, sometimes they don't. But if you could imagine that these people instantly become your best friends, psychologically, it's just jamming a round peg in a square hole, and it's not something that people are signing up for. I mean, when you come in for jury duty, you don't know if it's, like I said, a small accident case. You don't know if it's a simple shoplift case, or it could be, a many-month-long murder trial. Granted,